Well, good morning to you too, my friend. Good morning, Los Angeles. Good morning, everyone around the world. And me and this guy are out for our morning walk. Daze with Jordan the Lion begins wherever he takes us. Well, today is indeed a day that I'm going to spend in Santa Monica. I'm going to give myself at least 2 hours to get there. I'm going to try and take the train for the first time. Santa Monica, I've never done it. I've always done it. Whenever I've done it in the past on public transportation, I always did the bus, but last time I went, the bus that I took to get there, it used to only be one bus. It stopped 3 different times and said that was the end of the line, and I had to transfer, but I ended up spending like almost 15 bucks to get there. So I'm taking the train today. No shenanigans. Last time I took this train, there was some really cool stuff to see from the train, like it's an above ground train, so I'm looking forward to it. And then I have 3 things that I'm thinking of vlogging over there. Haven't really decided on which one. Maybe I'll do 2 of the 3, I don't know. Then we're going to Vidal Sassoon Academy to get my hair cut. I know, they send me emails offering free men's cuts. So, what am I supposed to do? I'm gonna take a free men's cut. Well, I noticed in my morning YouTubes today that my favorite YouTuber is in Southern California for kind of an extended stay. I thought that he was only going to be around for a couple of days by the sound of his vlog the day before, and now it sounds like he's going to be here for a while, so good for him. He genuinely looked happy in his vlog today. He had a real beaming smile. You could tell he was happy to be back, and one thing that I really respected was he showed up at his favorite place, probably on earth, Disneyland. And he's had some critics in the past complain about how much time he spends there. So he just immediately put a warning in there and in the comment section of his vlog saying, I'm going to do what makes me happy. And if I want to be here, I'm going to be here. So if you don't like it, find someone else's vlog to watch, spare me the complaints, and come back in a month and watch me then when I'm not here. Good for him. It's his life. He's trying to have fun. He's trying to live his life. He's inviting people into his life, and then they have the audacity to complain about it. He's vicariously letting you go on adventures and journeys with him, so good on him. Not letting people bully him around. Enjoy your vacation, dude. Well, he just got pretty lucky because he's going to Pollyanna's house while I go get my hair cut. They're coming to pick him up now. You're going to Pollyanna's, aren't you? Alright, the expedition has begun. We're walking to the train station once again. You guys probably know this trail by heart. We're going to head off to Santa Monica Promenade. Alright, now we gotta switch trains and we're taking the exposition line down to Santa Monica. Well, look where we are, guys. Pretty close. Now we're just gonna take a right and walk down here a little bit, go find our destination. Well, that's an interesting little art piece. You've got a whistle, a jack or some jacks, grilled cheese sandwich, a shoe, some books. Interesting. This is Jenna. Jenna's cutting my hair. Jenna's from Canada, and when I said I was from Ohio, she said, "Oh, that's not far from California, is it?" Okay, so this is hilarious. Jenna Wade, tell them where you got your name.
The soap opera Dallas, the character Priscilla Presley played Jenna Wade in the soap opera Dallas.
And I got my name from Dallas. My mom named me after a character, Jordan Lee, on Dallas, so ironic.
What was that, flock of seagulls?
Yeah, that too. I know it from the Misfits, the devil, like, they used to have devil walks where they would like pull it all straight down. Alright, well the haircut's done. You know what's a funny thing, guys, is I've never told you, is when I first moved to California, this was like the first kind of touristy place that I came to, was the 3rd Street Promenade. And since when I moved here I didn't know anybody, I would go to school during the day, and I was usually done with my day by 2 o'clock. So I would hop on a bus about 4 or 5 o'clock, and I would come down to the 3rd Street Promenade and I would listen to the musicians over here all night long. I'd usually come down here for about 4 hours a night. Well, we are getting close to our destination. We are, I think, about a block away. Well, we have made it. This beautiful building right here covered in ivy on the corner, the Oceana, that's our destination for today. Because this was the last apartment of Stanley Laurel. Originally Stan Jefferson, but you know him from Laurel and Hardy. And this was his place of living for 6 years, the last 6 years of his life. It was actually after Oliver had died when he finally moved into this place, but he lived in apartment 203, which I believe was right up here. And the reason that he moved here was actually because he had a house in Malibu and before he lived here. And apparently Stan Laurel was a big fan of watching television at night. And in Malibu, he just couldn't get good reception for the television, so he decided to move out here to the Oceana. And he had some pretty peculiar things about his life while he lived here. One of which being that he had his phone number and his address in the phone book. I mean, in fact, one of the stories that I saw was an interview with Dick Van Dyke, where Dick Van Dyke is saying that, he's like, when I first moved out to Los Angeles, my goal was to meet Stan Laurel, and I was going to do it by hook or by crook. In 1955, I mean, I was obsessed with it, and he said, and then you know how I finally found him? I was looking for someone else in the phone book, and there was his name. And he said that he came out here and met Stan Laurel and said, Mr. Laurel, you are a gigantic inspiration to me, and I have definitely stolen from you over the years. And Stan Laurel's response was, yes, I know. And even Jerry Lewis used to come out here and visit Stan Laurel here. They said what he loved was he loved staying out on that 2nd story balcony, and he would look at the ocean across the street, which was literally directly across the street. And we will go over there and take a look at it. Actually, let's go do that now. He told his friends his favorite thing to do in life in these years was to watch the sea. He loved to sit for hours and watch the sea. The sea didn't do much, it didn't move, but he seemed to love it. And another one of his hobbies while he lived here, ironically enough, was he would answer every single bit of fan mail by hand. It actually turned into one of those situations where it created a whole new hobby for him, because what he ended up doing was he ended up starting to go to stationery stores all the time, and he would walk through every stationery store in Santa Monica, look through everything, make notes, write down little memos to himself. He just absolutely, for whatever reason, loved stationery stores. There's a bathroom. So he would go in there, he would buy all of his supplies, and then he would respond by hand, like I said, to everybody's fan mail. Can you imagine getting fan mail back or a response from Stan Laurel? It's almost unbelievable. Like I said, he lived here for the last 6 years of his life, and Jerry Lewis said he would bring by scripts that he was working on for Stan to peruse. And he said, I remember bringing over Bellboy for him to check out. And I remember him pulling out a pen and he started making notes all over it. And he said, you know, he would put very funny or not necessary, or he would circle apart and say, don't shoot. Various notes. And Jerry Lewis said, as soon as I looked at that, I mean, that's how I filmed what we were going to do. Stan Laurel said, don't shoot a scene. That was enough. That was it. We're not shooting the scene. He said nobody in his lifetime knew comedy better than Stan Laurel. And in fact, he said, if there was anybody I've ever met in my life that I felt like should have had a pass, should have had a live forever pass, because when you were around them, they just genuinely put a gigantic smile on your face. They just made you happy to be alive, and they made you happy to appreciate life. He said Stan Laurel was that guy. And one of the funny stories that I heard was when he would go to those stationery stores, he loved to joke around with people. And a guy who worked at the stationery store one day came up to him and said, I know you. I'm a big fan of yours. I know all of your work. I know you. I mean, and the guy who's telling the story says, I could tell he obviously didn't know. He recognized Stanley, but he didn't know his name. And he said, I went to him, he said, yeah, you're, and Stanley said, Oliver Hardy. And he said that when the guy said, oh yes, I watch all of your movies, Mr. Hardy, whatever happened to Mr. Laurel? And this was after Oliver Hardy had passed. And he said, oh, he went Bobby, which I guess meant he had died. So his apartment was directly across from here, I believe right there. And just think of that the guy would have spent, you know, he was married numerous times. They say in the later years of his life he was actually rather a little bit poor, I guess would maybe be the best way to say it, because he had multiple wives throughout his life. I think he was married 4 times. And numerous times when he was married, he was actually paying for his mistress's homes as well. Or when he was married, he had another home that his brother and their family were living in. He was a very generous guy, and just loved comedy. And then, in fact, that's kind of why he retired. You know, when basically what happened was, come 1950, just nobody really in the industry felt like there was a market for what Laurel and Hardy were doing, that maybe they were just behind the times. And so in 1950, the guys called it quits, and then when Oliver died in, I believe, 56, that was the end. Like, Stanley really never did anything to speak of, although while he was living in this apartment, he was honored with a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Academy of Motion Pictures, and didn't even want to accept it. They had to really coerce him into accepting such a great honor. But that was Stanley Laurel, and this was his last apartment with his wife Ida. Now, in case many of you don't know it, Laurel and Hardy actually did not start out as a comedy team. They were vaudevillian actors. Stanley was actually broke into the business with his wife. He went to Hal Roach, and they saw how funny he was at Hal Roach, no question about that. But what ended up actually creating his break was that Oliver Hardy was starring in another movie for Hal Roach, and they were doing a scene where, look at that squirrel, where Oliver Hardy was sticking his hand in an oven, and he kept his hand in there so long that he actually got burns and blisters and wasn't able to complete the film. So they thought, well, let's put in somebody else that we think could carry this, and it was Stan Laurel. And then because he did such a great job and they thought he was so funny, they thought, hey, why don't we try putting these two together and see what happens? And of course, you know, like I mentioned when we went out to Fort Laurel, Stan Laurel was really kind of the creative force behind that group. He wrote quite a bit of the material. He was on the writing staff for Hal Roach whenever they did those kind of things. And when they were working on scenes and trying out scenes, they just went with whatever Stanley said. Babe really was like, they said, like a kind of a 9-to-5 guy. He wanted to show up, do his scenes, and then get out and go play golf at the Riviera, whereas Stanley would really mull over different ideas of how to capture the scene. And they actually said, his daughter said that when Stan would watch movies of what they had filmed, he would never watch himself, he would always watch Ollie. And here's actually the front of the building. I just wanted to show you guys what his front entrance would have looked like. I did actually go in and I asked them if they had a memorial to Stan, and the lady behind the desk said, not that I know of. Okay, I just got official word. This is apartment 203, or room 203. Right there, this would have been Stanley's apartment. And that was his balcony. Kind of hard to tell from the outside without, you know, being able to walk around the building to see what the room numbers are, but luckily somebody was nice enough to tell me. So right there. All right, let's head back to Hollywood. Let's go find my train. You know what's really peculiar to me is that nobody that works at that hotel now, nobody seems to know that Stan Laurel lived there. I mean, it's all over online. The name of the building is the same, the address is the same, everything's the same. For some reason, the people that work there they just don't know. Well, they now know, because Meet Grimlock told them, but they didn't know before. Well, here's what they were working on the other day when I was pointing it out from across the street. Smoke shop, of course. I think that pretty much says it all right there. A droopy-eyed elephant. Well, good night, guys. I never thought in my life I would ever sit in someone's haircutting chair and them tell me that they were named after somebody from the TV show Dallas the same way I was. What a weird day. Anyway, I wanted to thank two new Patreons, Rachel Delgado and Donnie Musto. Thank you so much for becoming new Patreons, and you guys don't want to miss tomorrow. I have a sneak peek at something that's going into a museum in about a month, and it's something that I used to see every single day. Well, not every day, 6 days a week, and I haven't seen it in, well, since about 2007. So this can be a great day full of a lot of surprises, and I can't wait to meet the guy that's gonna show us this thing, because this guy is, he owns a museum, and I just think this guy is awesome. So it's gonna be a great day. Come back and see it, and from your old pal Jordan the Lion, Hollywood, California, have a great night. Goodbye.